Hey everyone, let's stop torturing our bodies and get back to our natural diet. You may have heard of something called the leaky gut. This is when you eat such an unnatural diet that you start creating holes basically in your body, and this causes autoimmune problems and a lot of other things. Because our digestive system has way more nerves than our brain, so in other words, it's very sensitive to the wrong foods, and it will react to it, and you will see a lot of illness. But most people do not realize that most illnesses nowadays come from the wrong diet. And the main thing that causes this is fiber. And people usually nowadays assume that it's a good thing and that it's healthy in some way, but most people don't realize what it is. And if you have heard of it but never looked into it, let me just explain it to you quickly. Fiber is basically the same as we humans have bones and such, which hold our body together, and plants have the same thing. The thing though is that when we eat these things, we do not digest them, because we are not plants and we are not made to eat plants, because we have a completely different digestive system than herbivores who eat plants and actually break them down. And this is especially important when it comes to seeds of plants, because these seeds are so hard, and a lot of them are actually sharp, and this includes just everything. Seeds means all grains, all what we call nuts, and everything is the seeds of the plant which it wants to spread, basically, which is in shells sometimes, sometimes not. And it's quite dangerous to eat this. It's been proven many times. So it's an undigestible thing, which I've read studies, it definitely causes constipation. And when you learn about it, you will read the exact opposite. But when have we not been brainwashed to believe the opposite of the truth? Most of the times when I found out the truth about something, it turned out that it's the opposite of what I was told. So that didn't surprise me at all when I found out about it ages ago. So fiber is something you should stay away from as far as possible. And they actually sell waste products nowadays, which they would throw out, but people actually buy it now, simply fiber, which means undigestible things which will cause leaky gut and constipation and a lot of problems. So anything with fiber should basically not be eaten, or eaten very little of. And this is the stuff that rots in your body, and this is also the stuff that causes farting, for example, as in smelly gas, and that's not normal at all. We got brainwashed, all of us, that having smelly gas is normal, but it's actually a sign of sickness, and that what you're eating, you're not digesting. And if you have this, you should stop eating the foods that you're eating right away. And about vegetables, for example, nobody ever in nature went by some plants like spinach, for example, green leaves or similar things, and thought that that's edible, and actually took them and ate them as if that was food. That never happened, never in a million years, really in a million. Once people started eating more for taste, yes, they may have used it when they cooked some soup, for example, for the taste, but they never assumed that it's edible as such, or that it's nutritious. Because if you look into any of this stuff, for example, kale, spinach, arugula, they cause thyroid problems, which is a big problem nowadays among people. and that's why so many people are so tired. And also, what about children? Why do they not eat vegetables? Because the smell and the taste of vegetables, it tells us that it's not edible. It's just not. And children, of course, understand this, but they get brainwashed, and by the time you're a teenager or older, you somehow believe that it's healthy, even though there's nothing in any vegetable that we require. Completely nothing, zero. Everything is, every vitamin and mineral is much more in a larger quantity and more bioavailable in animal products. And about fruit, fruit is the only thing of the plant which is actually edible and is made to be eaten, because obviously bushes, trees, and all the plants, the vegetables which create fruit, they want us to eat the fruit, and they want us to spread the seed, whereas the plant itself doesn't want to be eaten, because broccoli, for example, has chemicals in it that when worms and insects of all kinds try to go into it and eat it in the stem, it kills them, literally. So what do you think happens when we eat raw broccoli? It kills our cells. That's actually been proven, and you shouldn't be surprised about it. Most of the time I would recommend cooking vegetables if you want to eat them, which there is no reason for. You will get nothing really out of it anyway. And as far as the antioxidants go of vegetables, it's been proven that, for example, blueberries, they took the antioxidant of it, extracted it, and then used it as a test on mice, and it had some kind of benefit, very little benefit, but that was in a quantity where you would have to eat kilograms of blueberries, and that's if you could absorb the antioxidants. But then it turns out that we can only absorb 0.1% of the antioxidants of blueberries. That's what enters the blood, so it's completely useless. So don't even talk about antioxidants of plants, because the antioxidants such as cholesterol from animals is much more required, even though we make it ourselves, and it's a bit hard to do it, but we still do. We can also use that, and don't even say that you didn't know that cholesterol is an antioxidant. I hope you did. I'll continue in a second. Alright, so I'll link you to the site of Dr. Edie, who describes all of these food groups, which you may be actually eating, and you may be surprised what you will find out about them. It may actually be really interesting. And I'll also link you to the study, and I'll read to you this conclusion of it. The overall effect of the 10-week period without dietary fruit and vegetables was a decrease in oxidative damage to DNA, blood proteins, and plasma lipids. So vegetables and fruit may actually really help you if you leave them out of your diet. Of course, there's more to it, and I could talk a lot more about it, but that's why I would rather link you stuff so you can check it out yourself and think for yourself. And also tomatoes and cucumbers, which have seeds, those are also the fruit of the plant, so that's not a vegetable, just so you understand. The reason the human body prefers fat as fuel is because we are not plants, and we are not able to store glycogen and use it for energy for a long period, actually very shortly. We can store a lot of fat, and we even go to the lengths of converting carbohydrates to fat, and we don't convert fat to carbohydrates, which we would if we would want carbohydrates as energy. So this happens when you overeat on carbohydrates, which most people do nowadays. And if we would store carbohydrates as energy, then we would be simply stiff, we couldn't move, or we would have like potato-shaped things growing out of us. And actually, ironically, tumors feed on glucose, which are sort of like that. Is that a coincidence? I'm not sure. I would say not. And also the problem with eating plants is that, especially if you eat a vegan diet and eat a lot of plants, and then you try to get a lot of protein from nuts, which are seeds, as I said, and these seeds have a lot of unsaturated oils, and these are very damaging. And don't even be fooled by people saying that olive oil and such unnatural things are healthy for you. They're not, because for one thing, you gotta press out thousands and thousands of olives to actually get this oil. So think about that. How could that possibly be healthy in any way at all? The thing about them is that I'll link you to this also, but they came to the conclusion that cancer cannot occur unless there are unsaturated oils in the diet. Whereas if you eat little quantities of those with saturated fat, it acts as an antioxidant, whereas those are pro-oxidants. And the thing is that the monounsaturated oils which we get recommended, like in olive oil or macadamia nuts and such, they have simply one atom missing in the chain, so they aren't as exposed, let's just say, to free radicals, whereas the polyunsaturated fats, which have more than one atoms missing, they are very exposed to them, and they are just no good, and eating a lot of seeds is really damaging, really. So if you want to eat them for whatever reason, always make sure you eat a lot of saturated fat with it, because it's so healthy for the brain. The brain is made out of 60% fat. For the heart, the best thing you can eat is saturated fat. Healthy heart is wrapped around in saturated fat. It's how the body works. That's why we just try to make saturated fat all the time out of anything, and that's why it's so energy dense. Also, another thing that was concluded, heart disease can be produced by unsaturated oils and prevented by adding saturated oils to the diet. So that's that. Also, what I wanted to say, when people get acne and such, and teens get told that it's normal, how can pus coming out of your body be normal? How can we get so brainwashed to actually believe that nowadays? It's pretty crazy, really. This is a sign of sickness. It's always been seen as somebody who is sick as totally not normal. It means that your diet is completely wrong. And when you're around 20 or so, you can go quite a while with the wrong diet because your body is robust, so to speak. So even if you eat a vegan diet or so, you can sort of take it to some lengths, but the people I know, I used to have a friend, he had thyroid problems, he was super tired always, and other things. And also if you check out the Sverige meeting, 3 of those people, they were vegans, and they also had anemia, yeast infection, because it's very easy to get a yeast infection when you eat a lot of sugar, because your body feeds on it, the yeast, and you get a yeast overgrowth in the body, basically. It may start with just a toenail being infected, but it will go on and on if you keep eating a lot of carbohydrates. So I mentioned this about the 20 years because a lot of people nowadays who go on these unnatural diets actually feed it to their animals and their babies, and that's just so sadistic. Because okay, one thing is animals, because people don't really care about animals. Don't even lie to me. Everybody puts their birds in cages, even though they should be right here flying. I can hear them here. Or put dogs and cats probably not on leashes, and just treat them, just don't let them out of the house enough. And it's just, it's an imprisonment always, from what I see. That's my experience with it. And they actually try to feed their dogs and cats who are carnivores a vegan diet. Oh, just ugh. And then there's people who do it to babies. what the fuck? How can you, in any way, how can you be so brainwashed that you believe that that's a good thing? It's amazing. And I'll link you to some reports of babies dying and children not growing, and so much disease from malnourishment, of people who actually try to pull this off and just give them tons of medicine to try pull off this unnatural diet. I'm talking mostly about veganism in this case, because some parents are that brainwashed to actually do it to their children. So it's quite a horror story if you look at it. When babies cannot move their necks, even they can't lift their head, they can't do anything, and these parents are just so stupid that they continue doing it. The bottom line here is that if you really listen to our bodies and the indigestion that happens when it comes to eating plants, we can all sense that it's not natural to eat them, not in such quantities anyway. And there's also an example of this in the Sverige meeting when Konrad was eating the oyster, and I mention this because I documented it myself. He almost threw up from it, even though it's a very natural and nutritious thing which people have been eating forever. But that's an example of how unnatural a body can get. And then when he gets back, and I showed especially afterwards, they eat this totally unnatural meal, and he rates it 5 stars. And also they were eating a lot of meat substitutes, even though there's no such thing. You cannot replace meat, but you get what I mean. It's the soy stuff and such. And they don't actually listen to their bodies because it's asking for meat. They try to substitute it and go another way, but there is no way around it. So again, just an example. So raw meat is the lightest and easiest to digest food for the human body, and it's also the most nutritious there is, and there's just no comparison to it whatsoever. Nothing is going to replace it. Just wanted to look at one thing. Right, there was this thing in Vietnam when a guy's gut was cut open, and they actually did a test. They didn't sew it back together or so, and they put a whole steak in it, and it dissolved in the acid within 40 to 60 minutes. It was just gone. And they then put vegetables in it, and it took 3 to 4 hours to digest them, and mush was left over. It's because it's not digestible, because there's fiber. So then there was also a guy who tested with a tube and a plastic bag. This is a common thing nowadays in modern medicine. They do this to people, and the stuff that he digests comes out. And always when he ate meat, nothing came out because it's fully digested. Whereas when he ate vegetables and some kind of other plants, it always came out. And that's just how it is. And the main point you should think about is, even if it's not all of these points which I mentioned, you should look at our digestive tract, because herbivores, for example, are not even herbivores anyway. For example, cows and such, they chew their food, and it goes through their many stomachs, and they chew it again. Afterwards, it actually comes back up. No human does this. I've never heard of it. And they actually eat the bacteria. They feed off the bacteria, and that's why they're so muscular, because of these amino acids. So they also eat other living things, even though plants, of course, are also living things. And rabbits eat their own shit for the B12. And this is what others do. And they can actually break down, as I said, those plants, but we are not able to. We have almost the exact same digestive tract as dogs, which are carnivores, with the exception of the appendix. And dogs and us, we can taste sweet things, and these can be eaten when starvation is around us, which is not for most humans nowadays, even though in a sense it is, because if you don't eat meat, you starve yourself. Or just eat cakes and eat occasional burned steak or whatever. That hardly counts, because the B vitamins, the C vitamins are destroyed almost completely. So cats cannot taste sweet things, so that's, for example, a difference. But other than that, there's just hardly anything, and I'll link you to it if you want to see the exact comparison. Actually, a very interesting book about this if you really want to look into this. And just one more thing about the appendix. We have it because nowadays it may be so that people do not use it, but it doesn't mean that it has no purpose, because that's what a lot of people said. That's what they told me as a kid. But for one thing, it's a repository for the beneficial bacteria. And of course, people are scared of bacteria nowadays, since it perfectly fits into this brainwash nowadays. And also helps with the repopulation of good bacteria when something happens to it for whatever reason. May it be antibiotics or something else. So if you don't have an appendix, it's not completely, it doesn't mean that your health is destroyed, but it's definitely helpful. And in case you ever get the chance to decide to remove it or not, try not to remove it, because this helps with the digestion of raw meat, because there's actually enzymes in it that help you digest it. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned and stuff like that.